Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO of Zappos.com and founder Downtown Project, Tony Hsieh.
Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to actually do a quick survey first. How many of you have actually purchased from Zappos before? Oh, wow. Thank you very much. So it's interesting because normally when I do this survey, the ratio is actually about 2-to-1 women to men. And a lot of guys I've asked say they haven't actually purchased from us, but their wives or significant others have, and a lot of times it's actually on their behalf. And a few years ago, I was giving a tour to an executive from, I think, one of the major record labels. And for those of you who may know, we're actually based out of Vegas and offer tours to the public, so I encourage you to come take a tour. It takes about an hour. And I asked him the exact same question, had he purchased from us before? And he said no, but he suspected his wife had because these white boxes would show up on his doorstep. And then they disappear, and he had no idea what was going on. And he didn't know she was returning stuff, exchanging stuff, buying shoes, and every time he asked her, she would just flat out refuse to answer him and change the subject. So we went upstairs to our customer loyalty team, which is our name for our call center. And you'll see when you go on the tour, we have stats of phone calls we took yesterday, revenue through the call center, percent we answered in 20 seconds or less, so on. And as I'm explaining through these different stats, I turn around, and he's disappeared. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I go looking for him, and finally I find him. Turns out he had gone halfway down one of our aisles, sat down next to one of our customer service reps, and forced her to pull up his wife's account. And he discovered that she had spent over $62,000 in her lifetime. So hopefully we weren't instrumental to any divorce proceedings or anything like that. For those of you, just quick overview of Zappos, we've been around for 15 years now. We're at about 1,500 employees and doing roughly about a few $1 billion a year in gross merchandise sales. And so we've grown a lot over the years. And a few years ago, we realized by then we were spread amongst 3 different buildings and wanted to build a permanent campus that we could call home and have enough land to expand upon. And found out that the city of Las Vegas, actually, they were building a new city hall, and the former city hall was becoming available and was perfect for us. So got super excited and emailed employees and asked what dream amenities they wanted. And I actually went and toured campuses like Apple and Google and Nike, and I remember Nike had this one building, all of those were beautiful campuses, had this one building where there was a running track around it, and another building they had an on-site pub, and we thought to ourselves, we need one of those as well. And so we got back literally hundreds and hundreds of responses back from employees, and the number one response, so they wanted on-site pub, on-site gym, and so on, but the number one response we got from employees was actually doggy daycare. More than human daycare. So as we got all these responses back, we realized a couple things. One was it was going to be physically impossible to fit all of those things under one roof. But the other thing we realized was that all those other campuses were great for employees, but were actually really insular and didn't really integrate or contribute to the community around them. So we thought to ourselves, what if we turned the entire concept inside out? What if we took an approach that was more analogous to NYU, where the campus blends in with the city and you don't really know where one begins and the other ends? What if we built something that encouraged employees to go out into the community and encourage people in the community to actually come onto our campus and interact? So that's kind of the Zappos side of it. And then if we can pull up the slide, this actually just randomly happened to be within a few blocks of this area of downtown Vegas that most tourists don't know about. It's almost the complete opposite of the Strip. If you go into any of the bars, coffee shops, and so on there, you would have no idea you're in Vegas. And it's actually the most community-focused place I've ever lived. It's called Fremont East. And I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I never lived in a place where the bar owners, cafe owners, restaurant owners all go into each other's places just to support each other and just to support the community. So it was one of those kind of magical coincidences that was almost too good to be true from the Zappos side. So to support that, actually, we'll go on to the next slide, started a company called Downtown Project, separate from Zappos. It has a $350 million budget. And it's just privately funded by myself and a couple other friends. We don't have any other investors because we really want to be able to take a long-term approach. And this is really meant to complement the Zappos move to this area of downtown Vegas. And roughly how the budget is broken up is we have $50 million set aside to invest in small businesses to help build a sense of neighborhood and community, make it a walkable neighborhood. $50 million set aside for tech companies to really help jumpstart that tech scene. $50 million for arts, music, and education, and we've done things like open up a school that teaches kids starting at 6 weeks old creativity and entrepreneurship and so on, and then $200 million in real estate. And what makes us different from most real estate developers that have kind of these short or medium-term cash flow or ROI needs is that rather than just focus on ROI, we actually focus on what we internally refer to as ROC, maximizing the long-term ROC, return on community, and return on collisions. And we use the word collisions a lot in terms of really thinking about how do we get people in the community to have these serendipitous encounters with each other as often as possible. And we actually talk about this term I stole from Jim Collins' latest book, ROL, return on luck, which sounds like a really weird thing to manage, but we actually have very real metrics around that, and there's a couple slides I can share about how we're really thinking about accelerating community and actually making it a luckier, happier, and more productive community. So we'll go down to the next slide, and this is actually, if you ever, next time you come visit, we opened up, which I think is the world's largest shipping container park. It's a combination of things. It's a kids and family friendly area in the middle. There's live bands, but around the outside are 40 small retail shops, and we think of it as kind of a small business incubator where people with no background in entrepreneurship but are super passionate about something can go in and try out an idea for 3 months, and if it works out, then our small business fund may help them invest in a larger space, more permanent space. If it doesn't work out, it really isn't that big a risk to them. So actually, there's a great book that's guiding a lot of our philosophies that I would recommend called Triumph of the City. Written by Ed Glazer, Harvard economics professor that studied cities from all different time periods, Rome, New York, Detroit, and looked at why some thrived and some didn't. And a lot of the findings are actually kind of counterintuitive, but they're guiding what we're doing. And one of the most interesting findings, thought, is that every time the size of a city doubles, innovation or productivity per resident increases by 15%. But when companies get bigger, the opposite happens. Innovation and productivity per employee goes down. So selfishly, from the Zappos point of view, we're really trying to think about how do we restructure Zappos so that we're structured and function more like a city and less like a big bureaucratic organization. And the other interesting thing is the research has shown that most innovation actually comes from something outside your industry being applied to your own. And so we're actually focused on diversity of industry, of different types of creativity, different types of entrepreneurs. We'll go to the next slide, and these are the ingredients for that to happen. Residential density of 100 residents per acre, combined with street level activity for those residents to collide. And so earlier when I showed you those Post-it notes, we're actually very anti-top-down master planning. And instead, we actually have tours that go through, that was literally my apartment wall. And when people go through there, we just ask them, what do you want in your dream neighborhood? And if it's not already on there, they'll put it on the wall. But the other cool thing is every once in a while, we get someone whose lifelong dream is to, say, retire 10 years from now and start a cupcake bakery. And we say, well, rather than wait 10 years, let us invest in you. You can start living your dream now, and it'll help make the community more walkable. And then we started doing the math on what actually is the value of a resident and like how many hours a day am I out and about in a collisional way, whether in a public or semi-public place, like a sidewalk or a restaurant or bar and so on. And so we actually translated that 100 residents per acre, did the math on someone like me. I'm collisional, meaning out and about maybe 1,000 hours a year. And so really, we'll go to the last slide. What we're targeting for is 100,000 collisional community hours per acre per year, which works out, as you can see, 2.3 collisional hours per square foot per year, which then gives us a whole new way of thinking about real estate investments, because and small business investments, while they still need to make sense as investments in them of themselves, we have this as an additional criteria in order to making sure that we're really maximizing our ROC, our return on collisions, our return on community, and that's what we're working on. And if there's actually a much more detailed version of this PowerPoint, anyone interested, you feel free to email me, tony@zappos.com, or email me if you want to come on a tour. Thanks.